Hi, this is Lori Rayfeld and Donna Schreiber with God, Aliens, and a Cup of Coffee. Now, we have a wonderful guest today. I am so excited. Actually, Celestine, you happen to be the first guest that we've actually had, anyway, we did have a few guests. We had technical problems. We couldn't understand what they were saying because of the link. But what I'd like to share with folks is Celestine is a doctor of divinity and has been called a Renaissance woman for our evolutionary times, possessing profound knowledge, wisdom, and expertise in many fields of endeavor. And we're naming many. I've read through all of them, and it's incredible. Dr. Star has been offering humanity her sacred healing wisdom, extra intuitive and perceptive abilities, worldly business knowledge, and joyous creative artistic gifts for over 40 years. Dr. Star knows each person to be an expression of creation, transmuting, transforming, and evolving into an enlightened state of divine awareness through the alchemical processes of refinement. And she's dedicated to facilitating the evolution of human consciousness on planet Earth for the benefit of all sentient beings. Where it is needed, facilitate enlightened change, keep the way sacred, and manifest the wisdom to create a joyous and beautiful world for all. Celestine Star. That is just so incredibly beautiful. I mean, well written from the heart. And I just want to share with Donna, because Donna doesn't know this, is that we actually met. I've been hounding the people at, let's see, what is that place?
Contact in the Desert.
Thank you. Contact in the Desert. That's why they don't want to contact me, because I can't remember their name. Contact in the Desert. And they finally, the woman, whoever is in charge, finally said, well, we'll have you, but only, but we'll, you can be part of our cosmic cafe. And I was, any way to get my foot into the door, I was really, really happy. I didn't realize what a huge gift it would be, because the woman who was narrating this was Celestine. And I just had a connection with you, Celestine, from the moment we met. I think we both did, because we were at the point of, we weren't just saying that we were experiencing a benevolent moment of happiness. We were just like really wanting to get into the core, the DNA of what's going out there in our world, in our universe. And I was like, I felt like God had sent you to me, because it's opened up so many things that I want to understand. And, often I feel like a neophyte, and I'm so happy to have you on here. And I'm just going to let you take over what you would like to share. And because I want everyone to know about you. You're just an incredible person.
So, first of all, I want to say thank you. That was a very beautiful and amazing introduction. And it's so wonderful to meet your sister, Donna. And I'm going to just hold space. We first introduce each other and we say, glory in the light of the radiant one. So I'd like to say that to all of you out there listening. And to let you know, it's been a journey being with the interstellar relations. They like to be called the Starkin. I've had experience in both camps. I was a wife of a high-level security and special forces person. My husband was. And so I lived among the OSI, the CIA, the different secret agencies, but also lived in the camp, lived at Edwards Air Force Base. That was a high security and was off planet. It had off planet and all sorts of workings there. And it gave me a up close and personal experience with the extraterrestrials that are not the friendly type. And, you know, allowed me to understand one of the reasons that a lot of our leadership does not really care about humanity in the way that we would think that they would care for us is because they can go off planet. They can hang, you know, for 10 years and come back if the world is like Chernobyl, the area was destroyed, and it takes about 10 years for nature to run its course. So that gave me a big eye opener, you know, but I looked for and my heart was attracted to, and I was guided. I knew that I was here for beneficial effect. So I spent about 20 years up in the mountains, the Mayakama Mountains, in which the benevolent ones have lived since the beginning. A lot of the ones that I'm in contact with, High Spiritual Council, Galactic Star Federation, and the Star Confederation, have actually been here since the beginning, you know, since Earth was conceived. The book that I wrote, the Galactic Earth Council, let me get a copy here, I'll just reach back.
Good.
Yeah, and this has a lot of the teachings that they brought to me as well as my life. We have advanced Galactic Earth Council members, and it tells the story of how we began during the oil spill down in Mexico. So having that contact on a daily basis has enriched my life. But I'm going to take it back a little bit further to a near-death experience that I had when I was 6 years old, and I went through the light, saw the reading of my life. I was met by two divine blue beings. And so we're starting to have that early contact with celestial beings and beings of high intelligence and benevolent heart. Once the reading of the life happened, I ended up in the Godhead. And so that cannot even be spoken. It set my path. I was told I would come back, and I said, no, I'm not going back. But they said, no, this is what you're going to be doing. And I said, okay, I'll come. So that's why I'm here. And because I realized that I was here to help with the evolution of consciousness on the planet and to keep the way sacred. Those are my two main purposes on life. So at the time, we soon left the place where I had this experience, which was Alaska. We were in Anchorage, Alaska. And I ended up in New Mexico, Alamogordo, New Mexico, where they have all the atomic bomb blast. This brought forth the off-planet interstellars that were concerned about humans not only giving chemicals to their children and their families. We had DDT, we had cocaines in our drinks and opiates in our cough syrup, and they were wondering why this generation was different than the others before. We were not asleep, we were wide awake, and it caused our mental development to push, to open up and to see clearly anything that was distorted or lies or, you know, our mental thinking was just shifted. So we were the chemical age, we were the children of the chemical age. And the interstellars are telling me now that it is the end of the chemical age, that we're moving into an age of the next golden age is where we're at right now. So I'm going to speak a little bit more about how we ripped the sky. You know, our government decided to test atomic bombs in the sky. This is the end of the 50s and the 60s. So they let off about 10 of them, and they literally ripped the sky in two. So there I was, about 7 years old by then. And you could see the delineating line. There was just nothing but black. And then the other side of the sky was regular. It snowed on one side of the yard and not on the other. I have a little bit of Egyptian and Native American. So we went to powwows, and the councils of the Native American, Apache, Navajo, Arapaho, Taos, they all came together and they were like, we cannot even speak the ancient words. They don't work. The vibration has been shifted on the planet. And so think about that. Now, it stayed for over a week. People just looked at it and just kept doing their business. But what it did was it sent a reverberation out into the cosmos that we were not in control of our planet, that we were opening ourselves to the level of destruction. And so very quickly, the huge saucers that were miles long, you could see them come in and travel. We were on those little freeways, not highways, and they would shut down all electricity. So all cars would stop and get out and look. And this was the beginning for me of the interaction between humans and the extraterrestrials in a different way, in a way that was, they landed, they talked to our leaders and gave them the opportunity to shut down our atomic weapons, and they would give us advanced technologies and help to advance humanity, and our governments refused. So what they took on was the need for power. Later on, my stepfather at that time drove and followed a ship. We weren't aware of it. The family was in the car, my brother and my mother. And we drove, and when the ship landed, we were close enough that they brought us onto the ship. It was an instant, and we were in a room and being examined. That's what I remember. And there was a tall gray, and I felt the concern. I wasn't afraid of this being. I had metaphysical training, had been to the other side. I wasn't afraid. He fed back to me the concern of how we were taking care of ourselves as a species. And I carried that with me. And so I tell you now that when we hear, the aliens are going to attack, this is absolutely not true. They could have done it many years ago. What we have now, they said they will not do a differentiation, and that means war. They will instead, they backed out and they backed away, and they're taking time to observe where we're going as a species. That's the most important thing. So since that time, I've carried the seed with me, and I think it's blossoming now as I get to speak. So thank you, Lori. I have always looked to the heavens and looked to the skies, and they've always stayed connected in some way. I did end up having family, and I was in the Northern Bay Area of San Francisco. I had to leave my husband because Edwards Air Force Base was just too much. I mean, we spent 7 years together, and it was time to separate. So I ended up in San Francisco working in quantum physics and science with eyes and photonic light, and advancing myself in those ways. I believe I've always recognized myself as a galactic being, but through the years, it has become for sure that we are all galactic in nature with a biological unit. I left the San Francisco Bay Area, the Billionaire Club, and ended up in the Mayaca Mountains and connected with them. After 15 years of learning their ways and their teachings, I was told to come down and speak to humanity. It was very, very hard. But I was taken in by the Galactic Star Federation, which is in the Bay Area, the City of Light. And so I hope you get the book, because in chapter 11, they give you, I will send you a copy. They talk about the evolution of the earth itself, that they've been here all along and they just have never left. They're waiting for us. And I speak with a lot of the commanders. We do a lot of Skywatch. We're doing Skywatch again in April because it's getting warmer. But the commander, Rael, tells us that humanity is getting ready to go across a great chasm. And they say, if we don't make it, they're going to still be with us.
Mhm.
You know, there's so much I could share with you. So I'll just end with his saying,
No, keep going. This is riveting. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. It's like you're feeding my soul, truly.
yeah. So the chasm is to recognize there are two timelines intersecting. The two timelines are developed out of our 7 billion humanities that have their own idea of Earth. I'm told there is, 7 billion Earths. We each individually create Earth, not just one Earth that NASA says, or they put the image of it. There's the flat Earth and the round Earth, and, but each of us are creating our own existence, and we're overlapping and merging. Within that overlapping and merging, there's basically two idealisms of what is happening. One is going over the cliff, control. It's the reverse consciousness of humanity, where we're being, if you don't have the strength to, or the power to control your life, or you do not have the finance, or whatever it is that holds you in that paradigm that you are not in control. You take your understandings of life. They tell you what to do. You are guided by a higher government or secret this and that. Sometimes you are forced to do what they tell you, which is what happens in the military or the secret programs. Yeah. And the other one is going to a state of evolution, awakening, ascension, which is really, you don't ascend anywhere, but you awaken enough so that you're in control of your own life. You're producing beneficial effects for the world. It's a more positive movement. And so these two are kind of together. We get a lot of information about the reverse consciousness and not so much information about the evolution. So I want to give a perspective that I was given by Meso, keeper of the books of the Seventh Council. And he said, imagine a beautiful white beach and one speck of darkness. That is the size of the darkness on earth, one speck of sand. So we have this beautiful universal complex. We live in the Sheshatar, the Milky Way. We are children of the Milky Way. It is vast, and Earth is reawakening to its galactic nature. So the chasm is for us to believe and to know that that is so. To recognize that there is opposites. We live, that's a universal principle. But as the frequencies rise, the opposites become smaller and smaller and smaller. This is what we say about the fifth dimension. It has opposites, but the opposing opposites are less than where we are here now. We have, the Democrats and the Republicans, everybody is polarized, right? But that phase moves in cycles, so it's getting less and less. We're going through across that chasm. As Commander Rael mentions, he says they often fly with me. They fly while I'm driving. So I'm in the car with one of my assistants, Claudette, and they're flying in front of us, over us. They're just all over the place, and they're just so excited. They always get excited when we're together. But he started moving closer to me and then moving away and moving close. And I got the feeling, you could sense the intensity and the energy and the intelligence as he got closer. And he said, so when we're in ceremony, humanity, if you go to a ceremony or something, they're calling upon the angels, they're calling upon the masters. They're coming close to us, and we start receiving a higher, heightened sense of awareness. Yes. For those who do trance mediumship, in other words, we get out of our bodies and another entity comes in, hopefully of a higher nature, that is kind of a merging of consciousness. And it allows the person who is speaking through to offer a higher intelligence to the person who is just slightly out of the body. So he spoke about the evolution that's happening where consciousness, the beings of higher, not higher in the sense I'm better than you, because everyone is equal, but in the sense that they're freed from their human locking down principle, right? We only see so much and only hear so much. And as they come closer, the field opens and we can access a higher state of where we are. So he says, instead of calling upon angels or calling upon the masters, the ascended masters, to ask them to to come and merge their consciousness with ours, to enable us to evolve faster. Okay, this is one method of doing that, where they can come and offer their consciousness to us instead of just being present. There's a big difference. And so he continued to ride with us. And immediately what happened is my assistant, Claudette, started telepathically channeling his information. She had never done that before. So we have an opportunity. The interstellars are here to assist us. And I'm ever grateful to be able to share with all of you. We can ask them to offer their consciousness, their conscious awareness, or their vibration so that we can raise ours. The other thing that's happening is that Earth is moving from the bottom of the Milky Way to the top. All of that information that came out on 12/12, the end of the Mayan calendar. It was the end because Earth was, if you look at the Milky Way, there's a hole in the center, the black hole, the rift, they call it, and we were dead center. So the Mayans would mark that date, and then it would be 290,000 years to come back to that point again. So all of us witnessed that. It takes 20 years to go across that rift. And if you're at the top of the Milky Way, we're getting more gamma, more alpha, all the neutrons. We're just getting blasted with higher energy. So the galactic force and the solar forces that would ring Earth at 7.83 hertz is fluctuating and getting higher and higher. If your body receives higher frequency, you automatically start utilizing both sides of your brain. It starts opening up. So our right side of our brain, which is connected to the spiritual world and the interstellars and to the higher states of ourselves, our divinity, is now opening more, and you're seeing more and more people awakening. You're here. I mean, just to see you here. And so I'm going to stop there, and I'll say one more thing. The celestial healers are here to help us. The Syrian Council came in just about 6 months ago, and with them came the celestial healers that are just fabulous. And I've been working with them and helping people who are interested in opening up centers with quantum medicine. We're ending the chemical era and now moving into quantum science and healing. So I'll stop there if you have any questions.
Wow. Wow. You did. I was thinking about recently when I'm on Twitter that a lot of people are talking about disclosure and blah, blah, blah. And to me, it is all blah, 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 because I really think it just gets everyone off course in regard to what's happening with our planet. And I just truly believe that the beings, or who you were talking about, who's overseeing us, keeping an eye on us, I think they're concerned about our planet. I think they're concerned about our planet is a gem. It's there's only so many like it, and we're arrogantly abusing it. And I believe that the energy that I feel often is that they're upset with humans for doing what we're doing. And are they there for us? I think they're there more for our planet and for the survival of our planet, because I think we're all part of that. So, that's been my argument. And I said the same thing you said about that. If they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it a long time ago. I mean,
Long time ago.
yeah. The other thing I found interesting, what you were talking about, is what we've received from them. When I had my UFO sighting, I was told at that time, due to the UFO activity that was happening there, and that had a lot to do with, you talk about science. I mean, I started hearing about the stratosphere and HARP and all these different experiments going on, and opening up these frequencies at these higher levels of our, that's close to almost being in the universe, but not quite, and also causing damage to our atmosphere because of it.
Mm.
And this one gentleman told me, and he was a scientist out of he was in Maryland, and he told me, he goes, we did get something from that time. They had given us a piece of plastic or this material that could actually take high degree of heat, and is very light. And he goes, well, we've been using it, and when he shared that with me, it was actually at a promotion ceremony, and I was feeling like I was on the X-Files for a moment there, getting all this information that was just kind of coming out in these synchronicity kind of spurt that you wanted to continue on to keep learning as much as you can about what's happening around us, because often, like you said, I feel that when we were born, we were immediately trained in many ways of, A, how to behave, B, indoctrinated in religion, indoctrinated in our case with Donna and I, indoctrinated in the Catholic religion. And it was more rote. It was more, in the name of the Father and Son, Holy Spirit, and we did it, because we thought, well, that's what you do. And then you do the Pledge of Allegiance, even though you don't quite really understand what you're pledging. You're pledging that you love your country. You try, as a kid, you try and put it into your own definitions, but the reality is often those maybe those definitions are at a higher level than as we become adults, and then it turns into more what's in it for me, what can I get out of it, but
I want to say something too. It's interesting because you shared something about your, in your personal life, like when you were 6 years old, that you had, like an encounter. And I find it interesting because when I was pretty much around the same age,
Mhm.
I was, and it sounds so simple. It just sounds the weirdest thing, but we had this dog and we were all heading out to go someplace. And it's like, who's going to put the dog in the house? And there were 5 of us and everyone's getting in the car, so I said, oh, I'll put the dog in. And I went down to go pick up this dog, and I felt, it was like I turned around and looked up, because I felt like it was like the heavens opened up and they were all leaning over watching me. I felt like I was being observed, and it was kind of like, she's doing a good thing,
Mhm.
And in being Catholic, I didn't have a connection with God other than he's way up in the sky. And there was no up close and personal. But I remember there were moments in my life where I felt like I was being, almost like, the way I look at it is almost like it was a big oval, and they're all leaning over this oval opening, and they're watching and observing us, seeing what we're doing. And, you know, and in that moment, I felt that I was being like applauded. It was like, oh, she's doing a good thing. Like, she passed it. I felt like it was like passing a test. Okay. And my whole journey being Catholic, you know, which I did it very well. I followed the rules. I was religious, you know, whatever, don't eat this, you know, whatever the religiosity of it was, served me nilch. Okay. Really got nothing out of it other than at one point in my life, which is when I became a Christian, just because Christians pray, they know the power of prayer. You know, that God is a possibility, that he was real and that he was there. Okay. At my stage right now in my life, I know for a fact that God is real, that God is up close and personal. God cares about the planet. He cares about each one of us. He does know every hair on our heads. You know, I had this encounter where God spoke to me, and from that, and I said, I will obey. It was something he asked of me. And from that moment on, I am at a frequency where I can hear God at, you know, and, you know, you could call it what you want, everyone, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, I call God, my God is like the God who, the creator. Okay. So I have moments where I'm, you know, if I'm questioning something, I bring it to the source. You know, I personally don't, you know, I don't bring it to Mary and Joseph when you're Catholic, or, you know, whatever. I bring it right to the creator, to the source, you know, and, you know, whether I get the immediate answer or 3 hours later, I get an answer, but I get an answer. And the season I'm in right now, and I'm 61 years old, is I am an intercessor, because there is a huge concern about what's going on in the world today. And I don't pray for my town. I don't pray for my city. I pray for the world. I pray for the leaders to have God's ear, to yield to, you know, because I do see what you're saying, you know, and that there is a great concern. But I also see what you're saying is there is an awakening happening, and people are getting a hunger to want to know more, you know. So you know, God showed me, you know, 5 years ago, don't look at the natural, okay, because the supernatural is more real than what's the natural, what you can see, you know. So you know, and it's kind of hard at times when you look at the way the world is going on, what's going on in the Ukraine and everything. But I really tend to maintain my focus on God, and God, what are you doing? What are you going to do with this? Because if you notice, every time there is a major catastrophe, people are turning to God. They are turning to the source and the creator, you know. And I feel like that's where I like what Celestine was saying also, the frequencies being elevated to a higher frequency. There was a point in my life when I could actually understand that. I could see where people are at different frequencies, and I couldn't even have this kind of conversation with somebody because they would think you're crazy, you know. But there is a population out there that is thinking the same thing, that we're concerned about the planet, you know. I think we're all, you know, we're all being positioned for our assignments. That's how I see it. There is an assignment, that we all have an assignment. We're all being positioned to do it, and God is opening our eyes. Because I just sent Lori, this is crazy. A couple months ago in August, I had seen this orb outside my window, and I have never seen, Lori's highly sensitive, probably more so than I, but it's the first time I saw this orb, and it was like birthing. These things were coming out of it, and they were coming down the side of a house and across the street from me. So I checked with God, what am I seeing? And I felt peace. I felt like there was nothing to be worried about, you know, so I was at peace. And last night, God woke me up at like 5 a.m. and I look out my window and I see this bright light just not moving. And two little lights came out of it and were stationary,
Oh.
and I'm observing it. And then, now I go down, I get my phone, I got to take a picture of it, But first time I saw it, I didn't want to leave. It was doing this birthing thing. And I'm like, I don't want to miss anything, trying to find my phone. This time I got my phone, I just took some pictures of it. And it's like, again, I feel like, God, what are you showing me? And in the Bible, there's like 7 places in the Bible where they talk about where the heavens open, that there is an open portal to heaven. We are a lot closer, heaven and earth, and our assignment, I believe, is really to bring heaven to earth, and the battle is in our minds, and it is in like what we're looking at, what we're seeing. And there is training that needs to be done. That's what God's telling me. People need to be trained up to know how to fight the enemy, and it's, and I walk in peace because I do know that God ultimately is in control, even to the point that if he takes me home tomorrow, I'm okay. I no longer fear. I don't have that anymore because I know who my creator is, and I know that, he loves us, But I loved what you share, Celestine. I was taking notes because,
Taking notes with you.
yeah, I'm taking notes as well, because I do believe, whatever we call it, we're talking about the exact same
Talking
thing.
the same.
We're talking the same language. Mhm.
Yeah, the grouping, the high spiritual council. So you have the great councils that are, all of creation. You have high spiritual councils that, focus in on the development of planetary systems, the Milky Ways, the galaxies. They stretch beyond with what we call sectors of time and space. If you can imagine the Milky Way, Andromeda, huge swaths of beingness. And it has an intelligence because of the vibration connects into the intelligence. And so we're now within, I think we've moved already within a vibrational sector of time and space that's so high that we're moving into the next golden age. One of the things I love everything you said. I was listening, both of you really are on cue here. And thank you for sharing your connections to the religion and to the orbs and all the things that you're seeing. This is important to share these things so that people recognize, I've seen that too, You asked, are they here for us? They never left. So they're a part of the earth. This earth is theirs. This is not our earth. This is the earth of all these beings. And so, yes, they're there for us, and we need to ask or give them permission to assist. I always say, go for those that are beneficial all the time, beneficial for the all. They're not saying go down and do something or rob a bank or do, harm another. They don't have the reverse consciousness. Those are the ones you can really trust. So I say, the high spiritual council, the great councils, the Galactic Star Federation, they're here to help. They do more protection, transport, assist in gathering people